What if you're not the only one living in your mind? What if there are parts of your brain that remember things you've never seen, never heard, never touched, but somehow they're still there? Hidden memories, silent knowledge, buried instincts. Like ancient files tucked away in forgotten folders, these fragments exist beneath your awareness, shaping your decisions, your fears, your preferences, even your dreams. You walk into a room you've never been in, and suddenly you feel uneasy. You meet a stranger, and for no logical reason, you instantly trust or distrust them. You hear a song you don't remember learning, yet you can hum every note. Why? Science used to think memory worked like a library. You only remember what you check out. But the deeper we explore the brain, the more it starts to look like a vast archive filled with drafts you didn't write and images you don't recall seeing. This isn't just about déjà vu or childhood trauma. This is about the brain's hidden storage system, where information slips in unnoticed and lingers forever. From evolutionary instincts passed down through DNA to subliminal impressions picked up in milliseconds, your brain is absorbing, storing, and even editing your life without asking permission. In this video, we'll dive into the science of implicit memory, how your brain remembers without you knowing, why childhood experiences you forgot still influence your adult behavior, the controversial idea of genetic memory. Can you inherit fear? How advertising, architecture, and even lighting manipulate what you store. What dreams, gut feelings, and instant connections really mean. And whether it's possible to access these hidden files intentionally. Prepare to question everything you thought you knew about memory. Because this journey isn't just about what your brain remembers, it's about what it hides. Let's open the first hidden folder.
Part 1. The mind's hidden hard drive, how implicit memory works. Most of us think memory is like a recording device. You hit record and it saves. You hit play and you remember. But your brain doesn't work like a smartphone or a camera. It's more like a massive, messy operating system with thousands of background apps running silently, constantly gathering information you'll never be consciously aware of. This is what scientists call implicit memory. Unlike explicit memory, which includes facts you can recall, like your birthday or the capital of France, implicit memory is unconscious. It doesn't ask for your permission. It doesn't require your attention. It simply stores information based on experience, repetition, and emotion, without letting you know it's doing it. Implicit memory in action. Everyday examples. You tie your shoes without thinking. You instantly know how to ride a bike after years of not touching one. You flinch when you hear a loud bang, even though you're not in danger. That's implicit memory. But it gets even stranger. Have you ever met someone and instantly liked or disliked them without any clear reason? Chances are your implicit memory recognized something, a facial structure, a tone of voice, or even a smell, similar to someone you encountered before. You don't remember the original experience, but your brain does, and it's quietly steering your emotions. The science behind it. Researchers have studied patients with amnesia who can't form new explicit memories. They forget names, places, conversations, but guess what? They can still learn. In one famous experiment, a woman with severe amnesia was introduced to a man multiple times. Each time she didn't remember him, but after a few visits, she began pulling her hand away when he reached out to shake hers. Why? Because during one of their earlier meetings, he had a pin hidden in his hand that pricked her. She couldn't remember the pain, but her brain stored it anyway, silently, protectively. That's implicit memory. You don't recall the event, but your body and brain do. Where does it live in the brain?
While explicit memory is tied to the hippocampus and prefrontal cortex, implicit memory is stored in older, deeper structures. The amygdala, linked to emotional learning, especially fear. The cerebellum, responsible for motor learning and muscle memory. The basal ganglia, involved in habits and procedural memory. These areas evolved long before language or logic. That's why they operate below awareness, and why implicit memories are often immune to rational thought. You can't talk yourself out of a gut reaction, because it's not happening in the talking part of your brain. Why it matters. Your implicit memory is always working. It's helping you survive. It's making decisions before you even realize there's a choice. It's the reason trauma can linger long after you forget the details. It's the reason children raised in chaotic homes grow up feeling unsafe, even if they can't explain why. It's the reason habits form, phobias emerge, and trust builds, or doesn't, without any clear logic. Your brain is a pattern machine, constantly matching the present to the past, trying to predict the future. Even when you think you've forgotten something, some part of you remembers. Part 2. Ghosts of Childhood. How forgotten experiences shape who you become. They say children are resilient, but neuroscience tells a different story. The brain of a child is like freshly poured cement, soft, impressionable, and waiting to be shaped. Every sound, every face, every moment of comfort or chaos leaves a mark. But here's the twist. You don't need to remember these moments for them to define you. Many of the most powerful beliefs you carry about yourself, about love, safety, trust, even your own worth, weren't formed by facts. They were formed by feelings. And those feelings often come from moments so early in life that your conscious mind never cataloged them. Your first hard drive, the pre-verbal brain. Before the age of 3, your brain hasn't fully developed the capacity for explicit memory. That means most of your early experiences were never filed away in words or stories. But your body did record them. Your nervous system did respond. These early moments form what psychologists call implicit schemas, unconscious blueprints about how the world works. If your cries were ignored, you may grow up feeling that your needs don't matter. If you were comforted quickly, you may develop a quiet trust in others. If love came with unpredictability, smiles one minute, shouting the next, you may learn that intimacy equals danger. And here's the kicker. You won't remember any of it, but it will shape how you attach to people, how you respond to stress, and what you think you deserve. When the past wears a mask. You think your anger at your boss is about that missed promotion. You think your jealousy in relationships is about what's happening now. But often these reactions are echoes of a younger you, a child whose boundaries were crossed, whose voice wasn't heard, or whose emotional needs were unmet. Adult problems frequently have childhood roots, but because implicit memories don't come with timestamps, you experience them as if they're present-day truths. Like a glitch in the system, the past hijacks the present. The science, attachment and the brain. Studies on attachment theory show how profoundly early caregiving shapes adult behavior. Brain scans of people with insecure attachments show increased activity in the amygdala, the brain's fear center, when faced with emotional conflict. They react more intensely, more quickly, and often irrationally. Why? Because their brain is wired for threat, and that wiring was installed before they could speak. Children don't just grow out of emotional pain. They grow around it, like a tree wrapping around a wound. The wound stays hidden, but it distorts everything. Real-life clues. You might be living with the ghosts of childhood if you overreact to small criticisms. You feel deeply unsafe in stable relationships. You fear abandonment even when no one's leaving. You crave success but feel like a fraud when you get it. You sabotage good things without knowing why. These aren't signs of weakness. They're signs that your implicit memory is working, perhaps too well. Can we rewrite it? Yes, but not with logic alone. Because implicit memories aren't verbal, they don't respond well to lectures or reasoning. Instead, they shift through experiential healing, consistent relationships, safe environments, somatic therapies, mindfulness, gentle exposure to new patterns of care. You don't erase the ghosts, you teach them they're no longer needed. Coming up next, Part 3, Genetic Memory. Can you inherit fear you've never felt? Part 3, Genetic Memory. Can you inherit fear you've never felt? Imagine being born afraid of something you've never encountered. A smell, a sound, a shadow. And for some reason, it sparks unease. Not because of trauma in your life, but perhaps in someone else's. Someone long gone. Welcome to the strange world of genetic memory. It sounds like science fiction. The idea that your ancestors' experiences could shape your instincts, emotions, and behaviors today. But modern research is beginning to suggest that trauma can be passed down through generations, not just in culture or storytelling, but in biology itself. What is genetic memory? Genetic memory is the theory that memories, particularly those tied to survival, can be inherited through your DNA. Not specific events or names, but emotional responses, instincts, and behavioral tendencies formed in the wake of powerful experiences, especially traumatic ones. Think of it like this. Your body carries more than your genes. It may carry emotional echoes, embedded not in your brain's neurons, but in the very code of life itself. The famous mouse experiment. In 2013, a groundbreaking study shook the neuroscience community. Scientists at Emory University trained mice to fear the smell of cherry blossoms by pairing the scent with mild electric shocks. After a while, the mice would panic at just the smell. No shock needed. Here's the chilling part. Their children and grandchildren also showed a fear response to cherry blossoms, even though they had never been exposed to shocks. Researchers found physical changes in the sperm of the original mice, proof that the traumatic learning had been biologically encoded. This phenomenon is now called transgenerational epigenetic inheritance. How does it work in humans? Human studies are still in early stages, but growing evidence supports similar patterns. Children of Holocaust survivors show higher stress hormone levels and altered emotional processing, even without direct exposure to trauma. Descendants of famine survivors in the Netherlands and China show increased rates of obesity and diabetes, traced to metabolic changes passed down. African American communities impacted by generational trauma of slavery and systemic racism may carry inherited stress signatures in their biology. These aren't just stories, they're molecular imprints, changes in how genes are expressed, not changed. You inherit more than eye color. Your grandparents' fears, your great-grandmother's grief, they might be shaping the way you love, fear, and cope today. And yet, these emotional downloads happen without your knowledge. You feel them in your gut, your dreams, your reflexes. But your mind has no reference point. So you label them as anxiety, panic, overreaction. In reality, they may be whispers from your bloodline. Why this matters? If trauma can be inherited, then healing must be too. Every time you choose mindfulness over reaction, every time you break a destructive pattern, learn a healthier response, or seek therapy, you're not just helping yourself, you're editing the emotional code passed on to future generations. Genetic memory isn't fate, it's potential, and potential can be rewritten. Next up, Part 4, Subliminal Storage, how your brain records what you don't notice. Part 4, Subliminal Storage, how your brain records what you don't notice. Imagine walking down a crowded street. You're talking to a friend, checking your phone, lost in thought. You're not paying attention to the music playing from a passing car. You don't notice the exact shape of the shop signs. You don't register the stranger who just glanced at you. But your brain does. Even when you're not aware of what's entering your senses, your subconscious mind is always listening, always watching, always recording. Welcome to the realm of subliminal storage, where information sneaks past your conscious guard and settles into the background of your mind. The gatekeeper is overwhelmed. At any given moment, your senses receive up to 11 million bits of information per second. But your conscious brain, your spotlight of attention, can only process around 40 bits per second. That means over 99.99% of what you experience is handled by your subconscious. What happens to all that extra data? It doesn't vanish. It gets filed away, just out of reach, but never truly gone. Subliminal messages are real. You've probably heard of subliminal advertising. Hidden messages flash too quickly for the eye to catch, but designed to influence behavior. While many early claims were exaggerated, modern neuroscience confirms the brain can respond to stimuli without conscious awareness. A 2008 fMRI study showed that people exposed to fearful faces for just 17 milliseconds, too fast to consciously perceive, still showed heightened activity in the amygdala, the brain's fear center. Other studies found that priming people with certain words, like old or slow, can subtly influence their posture or walking speed without them noticing why. Your behavior, mood, and thoughts can be shaped by things you never knew you saw or heard. Background noise that shapes the foreground. Here's where it gets truly mind-bending. Music in a grocery store can change what wine you buy. Lighting in a room can affect how trustworthy someone seems. Colors in a website layout can influence how long you stay. Even the smell of cleaning products can make people more generous without them realizing why. These aren't coincidences. They're proof that your brain records and reacts to far more than your conscious mind can handle. And the implications are enormous. Who's programming you? Every environment you enter, every voice you hear in passing, every scrolling moment on social media, they all contribute to your brain's hidden database. And unless you're aware, you're being programmed, not by mind control, but by exposure. You begin to think a certain body type is ideal. You start craving products you didn't know existed. You feel anxious, irritable, or inferior without knowing why. The source? Often subliminal content you didn't even register. Can you defend yourself? Yes, but it takes conscious practice. Mindfulness trains your brain to notice what it normally ignores. Digital hygiene, choosing what you expose yourself to, helps protect your mental space. Environment design, creating spaces that nourish instead of trigger, can reshape your daily baseline. You can't stop your brain from recording subliminal data, but you can choose what it's recording. Awareness is the first defense. Intentionality is the second. Coming next, Part 5, The Language of Dreams, How the Brain Translates Hidden Memory into Symbols. Part 5, The Language of Dreams, How the Brain Translates Hidden Memory into Symbols. You close your eyes. Your body falls asleep, but your mind doesn't. Instead, it starts speaking in symbols, in images, metaphors, sensations that don't follow logic, but feel strangely real. You're flying. You're lost in a childhood home. You're speaking to someone who's no longer alive. You wake up confused, haunted, or deeply moved. Why does this happen? Because your dreams are not random. They are your brain's way of processing what it can't say out loud, especially the things it has buried deep inside. Dreams speak when words fail. During the day, your prefrontal cortex, the rational, language-driven part of your brain, handles most of your thinking. But when you sleep, this region powers down. Meanwhile, older emotional systems, like the amygdala and hippocampus, light up. This shift creates the perfect storm for symbolic storytelling. In dreams, the unconscious mind finally gets to speak, not in facts, but in feelings disguised as images. Memory processing in REM sleep. Scientists have discovered that during REM sleep, the stage when most vivid dreams occur, your brain performs emotional triage. It reorganizes memories, trying to find connections. It files away emotional experiences, especially unresolved ones. It sometimes pulls up old implicit memories, not to recall them directly, but to translate them. In other words, a dream about being chased might not be about the person chasing you. It might be your brain confronting an old fear, one that's too deep, too abstract, or too painful to face head-on while awake. Hidden memory in disguise. Dreams often seem bizarre because they mix real elements from your past with symbolic meanings. You dream of drowning, not because you were ever in water, but because your unconscious feels emotionally overwhelmed. You see an old teacher's face, but they speak like your boss. It's your brain blending associations, authority, pressure, shame. You visit a room you've never seen before, but upon waking, it feels eerily familiar. Why? Because the layout, the color, or the smell may match a long-forgotten place from childhood. Dreams are encoded memory fragments dressed in metaphor, and sometimes they're your only access to what your brain refuses to show in daylight. Can dreams unlock suppressed memory? This is where science and psychology diverge. Some therapists believe dream work can help surface early or suppressed memories, especially in trauma healing. Others warn against reading dreams too literally, but almost all experts agree. Dreams reflect the emotional truth of your life, even when the story makes no sense. If you repeatedly dream of abandonment, falling, being silenced, or running, you may be processing something unresolved, unspoken, or forgotten. Your dream isn't lying. It's translating. It's translating your inner life. Learning the language? Want to decode your dreams? Start a dream journal. Write immediately upon waking, before logic edits the memory. Look for recurring symbols, settings, or feelings, not just plot. Ask not what happened, but what did it feel like? Don't Google random interpretations. Your symbols are personal. In time, you'll see a pattern. Your dreams are you, trying to speak through images when words don't work. Your conscious mind may forget, but your dreaming mind remembers everything and whispers it back in riddles. Coming next, Part 6, The gut reaction. Why instinct knows before you do. Part 6. The gut reaction. Why instinct often knows before you do. You meet someone new, and instantly something feels off. There's no clear reason. They're smiling, they're polite, but your stomach tightens. Later you find out they weren't who they appeared to be. We call it a gut feeling. But what if it's not just a feeling? What if it's a signal, one your body picked up before your conscious mind could understand it? Welcome to the world of embodied memory and instinctive intelligence, where the body reacts faster than thought, and the truth often lives beneath language. Your brain isn't just in your head. We tend to think of thinking as something that happens in the skull, but neuroscience now shows your nervous system extends throughout your entire body. The enteric nervous system, often called the second brain, is a complex web of over 100 million neurons embedded in the walls of your gut. It doesn't think in words, but it processes information, monitors stress, and sends feedback to your brain constantly. When you say, "I feel it in my gut," you're not being poetic, you're being neurologically accurate. Instinct works faster than logic. When you encounter a new situation, your amygdala, the brain's emotional radar, scans for danger within milliseconds. It pulls data from past experiences, subtle body language, tone of voice, environmental cues, even micro-expressions you didn't consciously see. Then it sends a signal to your body before your prefrontal cortex, the rational brain, even catches up. That's why you often feel something before you can explain it. And that feeling is usually right. The wisdom of the body. Your body is a memory bank. It remembers the tension of past arguments, the posture of someone who once hurt you, the scent of danger, the rhythm of safety. Even if you don't consciously recall a traumatic event, your nervous system may still respond to similar environments with anxiety, nausea, tension, or unease. This is called somatic memory, emotional knowledge stored in the body rather than the mind. When gut feelings become misdirection. While gut instincts are powerful, they're not infallible. A history of trauma, chronic stress, or skewed childhood attachments can distort what your body perceives as danger. If love once came with chaos, you may feel anxious around healthy relationships. If calm once meant the silence before a storm, you may mistrust peace. In these cases, the gut isn't lying. It's misinformed. It's reading from an old script that no longer applies. That's why learning to decode your body's messages is essential. How to tune in without being controlled. You don't have to be ruled by your gut, but you should learn to listen to it. Try this. Pause when you feel a reaction. Before explaining it away, ask, "What is my body telling me right now?" Scan for memory echoes. Is this feeling familiar? Does it remind you of someone or something? Name the feeling. Fear? Excitement? Disgust? Sometimes clarity comes in translation. Test it gently. Your gut says avoid. Your brain says wait. Can you stay, observe, and see what unfolds? Train your instincts. The more aware you become, the sharper your intuition grows. Your instinct is not magic. It's accumulated data stored in your cells, refined through repetition, and whispered through sensation. Sometimes your gut speaks before your brain can, and sometimes it's the only voice telling you the truth. Part 7. The Mirage of Free Will. How hidden memories influence your choices. You believe you make your own decisions. You think you chose your job, your partner, your favorite color. You trust that your opinions are yours, formed through reasoning, experience, and logic. But what if many of your choices were never really yours? What if they were shaped by memories you don't remember, by patterns you didn't see, by emotions you can't explain? The idea of free will is comforting, but when we look deep into how the brain works, we find something unsettling. Most of your decisions are made before you're even aware of them. The science of choice. In a groundbreaking experiment, neuroscientist Benjamin Libet asked participants to press a button whenever they felt like it. He recorded their brain activity with EEG and discovered something shocking. The brain showed signs of making the decision nearly half a second before the participant became consciously aware of it. This suggests that your unconscious mind acts first, and your conscious mind simply rationalizes the choice afterward. In essence, you decide, then you explain, not the other way around. The role of hidden memory. Why do you always fall for the same type of person? Why do you sabotage good opportunities? Why do you overreact in seemingly minor situations? Chances are you're not reacting to the present. You're responding to patterns from the past, stored in the background of your brain. A tone of voice that reminds you of a parent's criticism. A color that echoes a traumatic memory. A dynamic that mirrors early experiences of powerlessness. These hidden files shape your preferences, your fears, your attractions, and your avoidance, without ever asking for permission. The illusion of "I chose this." Imagine you walk into a store and pick a red mug. You think, "I just liked it." But what you didn't notice was, the red color matched a toy from your childhood. The lighting in the shop subtly warmed the hue. You saw an ad with a red cup earlier that day. Your brain associated red with safety because of repeated positive reinforcement in the past. The choice felt free, but it was heavily influenced by factors below awareness. Now scale that up to your life choices. How much of what you've built is actually constructed on subconscious foundations? Can you ever truly choose? Not fully, but you can become more aware. Mindfulness allows you to observe thoughts before acting on them. Therapy helps uncover emotional patterns you mistake for personality. Journaling and self-inquiry expose motives hidden in habit. Challenging automatic responses slows down reflexive behavior and opens space for real choice. Freedom doesn't mean controlling every influence. It means understanding what's shaping you, so you can respond with clarity, not compulsion. Reclaiming autonomy. Here's the truth. Your past will influence you, but it doesn't have to define you. Every moment you slow down, reflect, and choose with awareness, you weaken the grip of unconscious memory. You reclaim 1 inch of freedom, and inch by inch, you carve a self that is no longer just a reaction to old scripts.
Part 8. When Memory Lies. False Memories and the Brain's Editing Room. We like to believe that memory is a vault, secure, precise, untouched. But the truth is, your memory is more like a movie, edited, revised, and sometimes completely rewritten without your knowledge. You remember your childhood birthday party in vivid detail. The cake, the music, the laughter. Except, it never actually happened that way. This is not imagination. It's a false memory, one your brain created, believed, and stored as truth. Memory is not a recording. Contrary to popular belief, your brain does not store experiences like video files. Instead, it reconstructs them each time you remember. Every act of recall is also an act of rewriting. Neuroscientist Daniela Schiller calls memory a creative process. You don't remember the original moment. You remember the last time you remembered it. Over time, the original details blur. New emotions, suggestions, or external information reshape the memory, often without your consent. The Lost in the Mall experiment. Psychologist Elizabeth Loftus conducted a famous study in the 1990s. She asked participants about real childhood events, then slipped in one fabricated memory. Do you remember getting lost in a shopping mall as a child? At first, participants denied it, but with subtle nudging, your parents said it might have happened. Many began to recall the fake event in rich emotional detail. Some even described the color of the store signs or the fear they felt. None of it was real. This study showed just how easy it is to implant memories and how confidently the brain can defend them. Memory can be influenced by others. A suggestive question can change what you remember. A photo, even if doctored, can create a new belief. Repetition strengthens false memories, making them feel more true. Emotional biases filter what gets stored and what gets distorted. This has serious implications. In courtrooms, eyewitnesses often swear by details that are provably false. In relationships, arguments flare over events that both people remember differently. In self-identity, you may base your entire life story on a moment that didn't happen the way you believe. Why does the brain do this? Because the brain is designed for survival, not accuracy. A perfectly accurate memory isn't always useful. Sometimes it's more beneficial to fill in the blanks with emotionally meaningful narratives, ones that explain the world even if they distort it. The brain prefers coherence over truth, so it edits your past to match your present beliefs. It upgrades or downgrades people's roles. It protects you by softening painful details or magnifying them for defense. Can you trust your own mind? Yes and no. Your memories are real to you. They carry emotional truth, but that doesn't mean they're factual. That's why reflection is so powerful. Question your stories. Is it possible I misremembered? Cross-check with others. What do they recall? Notice patterns. Do I always remember myself as the victim or the hero? Accept uncertainty. The past isn't always fixed, and that's okay. What matters most is not whether every memory is accurate, but whether your memory is helping or harming the person you're becoming. Coming next, Part 9, Hidden Triggers, How the Smallest Cues Unlock the Biggest Emotions.
Part 9, Hidden Triggers, How the Smallest Cues Unlock the Biggest Emotions. You're having a good day, calm, focused, balanced. Then, out of nowhere, something tiny flips a switch. A tone in someone's voice, the smell of an old perfume, a glance that lingers too long, a place you haven't been in years. Suddenly, you're anxious, angry, lonely. You can't explain it. It feels irrational, disproportionate. But inside your brain, something very rational is happening. You've just been triggered. What is a trigger? A trigger is a stimulus, external or internal, that activates a stored emotional response. It could be fear, shame, grief, rage. The trigger itself may seem small, but it connects to a much larger emotional file hidden deep in your memory. Think of it like opening a folder on your mental desktop. You didn't mean to, you didn't even realize it was there, but one click, one smell, sound, image, or sensation, and suddenly you're in it. The neuroscience of triggers. Your brain is a pattern recognition machine. It links sights, sounds, sensations, and emotions, especially during intense moments. This is called associative learning, and it's rooted in the limbic system, particularly the amygdala. The amygdala doesn't use logic. It uses emotion memory tagging. Loud voice equals danger. Being ignored equals abandonment. Smiling face plus pain equals betrayal. Once the connection is made, especially during trauma, it becomes automatic. So even years later, something seemingly harmless can activate the old emotional network, and you feel it in your chest, your stomach, your fists, before your mind understands why. Real-life trigger scenarios. A child raised in a chaotic home may feel unsafe every time a door slams, no matter how kind the people around them are. A breakup song from 10 years ago still makes your heart ache when it plays in a cafe. A phrase like, "you always," sparks defensiveness, not because of the words, but because they echo someone from your past. These are not overreactions. They are echoes of unresolved emotion, awakened by familiar cues. Trigger does not equal trauma. Not all triggers come from deep trauma. Sometimes they stem from small, repeated wounds. Being teased for your voice, always being compared to a sibling, feeling dismissed in conversations. The brain doesn't rank memories by social scale. It tags them by emotional weight. And even subtle experiences can leave strong imprints. What can you do when you're triggered? You can't always prevent the trigger, but you can choose your response once it happens. Pause and breathe. Triggers activate the sympathetic nervous system, also known as the fight or flight response. Breathing deeply helps reset it. Label the emotion. I feel scared or I feel rejected helps the brain shift from reaction to reflection. Track the pattern. Has this feeling shown up before? When? With who? Name the file. Ah, this reminds me of when I felt invisible at home. Soften the response. Tell your body, this isn't then, this is now. I'm safe. The key is not to eliminate triggers, but to disarm their power over you. Turning triggers into teachers. Every trigger is a message from your past, a memory that wants to be seen, a wound that's asking for healing, a belief that needs to be rewritten. The more you explore them, the more you reclaim, because the strongest version of you isn't the one who avoids pain. It's the one who knows where it comes from and what to do when it returns. Coming next, Part 10, The Brain's Final Secret. Can we access the hidden files on purpose? Part 10, The Brain's Final Secret. Can we access the hidden files on purpose? By now, you've seen how your brain remembers far more than you realize, storing fragments of emotion, instinct, memory, and experience beyond your awareness. But here's the ultimate question. Can you access these hidden files on purpose? Can you open the vault and read what was never consciously written? The answer is sometimes yes, but not in the way you might expect. You don't access your unconscious memory by force. You access it through invitation, attention, and trust, the same way you earn the truth from someone who's been silent for years. Methods that open the door. There is no one magic technique, but science and therapy offer tools that help bring the hidden into the light. 1. Mindfulness and meditation. When you slow the noise of your conscious mind, the unconscious begins to speak. Meditation helps you observe emotions without reacting, allowing patterns to surface. Quiet stillness often leads to unexpected thoughts, flashbacks, or feelings, soft signals from memory files opening in the background. 2. Free writing and journaling. Start with a simple prompt like, "I don't know why, but I feel," or "The earliest time I felt this way was." Write without editing. Let your unconscious guide your hand. You may be surprised by what flows out: names, moments, phrases you haven't thought of in years. Writing is not just expression, it's retrieval. 3. Dream work. As we explored in Part 5, dreams are often coded messages from memory. Keep a notebook by your bed. Record everything you remember, no matter how strange. Over time, you'll notice recurring symbols or emotional themes. These are often connected to unprocessed memories or implicit beliefs. 4. Somatic therapy and body work. The body remembers what the brain forgets. Somatic therapy focuses on felt sensations, tightness, tension, breath, rather than words. A touch on the shoulder might bring tears. A sudden release in the chest might surface buried grief. Movement, posture, and breath are often gateways to emotional memory. Sometimes your body opens the door the mind refuses to unlock. 5. Trauma-informed psychotherapy. Skilled therapists know how to track the edges of suppressed memory without leading or forcing. Using approaches like internal family systems, EMDR, or hypnotherapy, they help clients safely approach emotional truths that the brain has buried for protection. You don't have to remember every detail to heal from what was forgotten. You only need to connect to the emotional truth beneath it. Why the brain hides things. The brain doesn't bury memory to harm you. It does it to protect you. When something is too overwhelming, too painful, or too complex to process in the moment, the brain puts it in a safe folder labeled "Do Not Open Yet." The problem is, we often grow strong enough to face it, but never get the notification. Accessing hidden memory is not about reliving pain. It's about reclaiming pieces of yourself that were lost, silenced, or misunderstood. Final thought. You are the architect of your mind. Your brain may have stored things without your permission, but now you have the power to reorganize the archive. You can edit the narrative. You can update the belief systems. You can release what no longer belongs in the present. Every memory, real or false, explicit or hidden, played a role in shaping you. But only you get to decide who you become next. Because even if you don't remember everything that happened to you, your healing can still be complete. Everything you forgot still lives within you. We often think of memory as something we control. We choose what to keep, what to let go, what to remember. But the truth is far more mysterious and far more powerful. Your brain is a living archive, storing not only the things you recall, but also the things you never noticed, never understood, never knew you absorbed. It remembers the smell of fear passed down from generations, the childhood silence that shaped your sense of worth, the flicker of a stranger's face that stirred something deep, the song that triggers a sadness you can't name. Every choice, every reaction, every instinct, many are echoes from places inside you that have never been brought into words. And yet, this isn't a prison. It's an invitation. Because while your brain may have hidden things from you, you now hold the key to unlock them. With awareness, with curiosity, with compassion. You don't need perfect memory to reclaim your story. You don't need to recall every detail to heal from what was unspoken. What you need is the courage to ask, what else lives inside me that I've never dared to meet? The more you listen, gently, bravely, honestly, the more you begin to uncover that within the hidden files of your mind are not just memories, but the blueprints to your healing, your freedom, and your future.